Welcome back to the Beat the Odds of Business Wealth podcast, Trevor.
Hey.
We had a busy day today, hey?
Man, yeah, it was busy. It's like, it's the new year. Everyone's excited about their business again. They want to come into the meetings and, talk about their business, talk about their growth, talk about what happened last year. And so that's why we're having this late night edition of the podcast. But that's cool. We're here. And let's talk about, our topic today, which is
The number one way to stay broke in Canada. And we pissed some people off with the video we put out. So, one of the clips that went out, like on one of our podcasts, right? You see the people where you get a lot of likes, but then you get a lot of haters, right? And I don't think that they're haters. I just think it's like the lack of education. And it's very interesting for me because I see the psychology involved in this. Like, I'm not speaking as someone who, has a theory. I've been doing this for 18 years. Mm-hmm. I've already taken people to the destination I'm talking about, and I know the destination that they'll get to if on the trajectory that they're on, right? But I'll draw attention to the clip. We're going to show the clip. It's kind of funny for me because a lot of times people just see our clips where I have no idea what clip's going to go out, right? Like, I have zero creative control. Like, we do these long form seminars, and we do these long form podcasts, and Ty's going to take a clip, but he's going to stick it out there, and we never know what's going to happen, right? But it's kind of interesting. So let's take a look at the clip.
All right,
and then we'll take a look at the reactions here.
All right, let's do it.
All right, here's the clip.
The number one way to stay broke in Canada in 2026 is keeping most of your wealth in a paid-off principal residence.
Oh, boom.
That is the number one way to be the person on the CBC saying, I'm on a fixed income and I can no longer afford my property taxes and the maintenance and the utilities on this house. It's like, that is how you're going to end up. And so they tell you to reduce that debt when, you could have used that equity strategically into other high performing assets. So people tend to do okay with real estate when they start out because they got 5, 10, 20% equity into that thing, and the rest of it's leverage. They're born at 5% into an asset that gives them 5 or 6. But as they pay it down, they're just left with an asset that's giving them 5 or 6%. That is underperforming the money supply. That is underperforming quality stocks. That is underperforming gold. Okay. And so their actual real buying power is going down. The number one way.
Okay. That's it, right? And you get a lot of followers on the channel. We got 1,000 likes on this video.
That's
right?
awesome.
150,000 views, 1,000 likes. But then you get the comments, and it's just like, that's a shocking statement. And they just react with the vitriol because it's just what they were told, right? That's a shocking statement because if you want what the 1% have, don't do what the 99% do, right?
Right.
But like, I'm going to walk through, like, the first comment is very, just look at the first. I believe this is such a short-term view of a long-term investment. Like,
Oh my gosh.
let's remember the statement that I said. It's too much of your net worth in a principal residence. That's the recipe to stay broke in Canada. And the most common, the number one way, by the number one way, I mean it's the most common way. Short-term view. Okay. I've been doing this job now for 18 years. I've been doing this job for 18 years. So I'm but rather than me tell you my anecdotal experience, I'm just going to show you the numbers because the numbers that you can find publicly available, StatsCan, other sources, they're just going to confirm what I see over and over again. Okay. So here's the total median net worth by age. Okay. So you get a 65-year-old who comes in. Say if I just do a consult with a 65-year-old.
Sure.
The median net worth, $738. That's the median net worth for a 65-year-old in Canada. Okay. The income. And they're telling me, like, it's a short-term view. I already know what the income is going to be. Like, what is the median income? It's right here. $37,600. Okay. That is the median income for a 65-year-old in Canada. Okay. And they're trying to sell it's a short-term view. Here's the scary part of the median income for a senior in Canada. The scary part is, you know what it was 10 years ago? It was $32,900.
Wow.
So in 10 years,
whoa,
In 10 years, this is like, that's where I'm like, this problem's not a good problem today. You know, just think like you have 37, I'm defining broke. I think $37,600 a year to live on is broke. I think $37,600 a year in taxable income is broke. Now, someone out there might disagree with me. They might think that they're living opulently and they can live, 8 people in a house or something, and maybe that's a great existence. I personally, I don't dislike you if you disagree with me, but personally, I think $37,600 per year is broke.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. $37,600 for an income. That is, well, what's the poverty line in Canada? I'm sure it's not very much further down than that.
Poverty lines.
I mean, it's kind of
20,000 and then the livable income,
okay.
But it's broke.
Here's the thing: how are you going to pay your property taxes? How are you going to pay your utility bills, your heat, food?
What if you got to repair
insurance?
Something? You need a roof. It's 10 grand.
Yeah, everything.
And this problem is getting worse because look at the median income. It's like people think, oh, don't worry, it'll go up and up. It's like in the last 10 years, that median income has only gone from $32,900 to $37,600. So we're talking like it's gone up by like $400 a month. But think about if you own a house, you own a piece of paid off real estate. Has the cost of owning that house gone up by more than $400? Forget about the mortgage. Pretend it's paid off. Just the property tax. I would say most people's property tax has gone up by almost $400 per month in the last decade.
Easily.
Okay? Now, you got the insurance, you have the maintenance, you have the utilities on top of it. All that stuff has gone up by more than $400 a month. Okay, so this problem gets worse and worse. So the solution that was marginally acceptable before is not going to be, right? So when someone says it's the long-term view, this isn't my opinion. Like, this is the number. I've just done it for so long that this isn't shocking to me, right? And so I want to go through some of the other comments because it shows the level of financial education. And it's not the fault of the people who feel this way because this is what they were told, right? And there's a lot of money behind this messaging. Okay?
Yeah, and it comes not only from education, it comes from media, it comes from the banks too.
It comes from the financial institutions,
it comes from
right?
Because they're a business. They're not in this to because they love you. They don't have some altruistic, feeling, oh, I want to help people generate and create wealth like we do. They're in it to help their shareholders. Which we are shareholders.
We are shareholders. We have that moral dichotomy where it's like, we would not sell this stuff, but we probably own shares in the companies who do sell this stuff, right?
But the whole problem is people are uneducated on how to really grow wealth, and they don't know the rules of money. And I think this is just like when we see the statements that are shown on your Instagram profile, it just shows the lack of education, lack of knowledge, right?
Yes.
So we're not mad at these people. We're just like, they just don't know.
I'm trying to save one of them.
Right?
I just want to save one of them today,
right?
Because like I tell people, it's like, how do I have to get you to a $1.3 million liquid net worth. That is my goal every time someone walks through the door. I got to get you to a $1.3 million liquid net worth. Minimum. And that is the start of financial freedom, where the inflation starts working for you, not against you. And people don't realize that it's actually possible on a median income. It's possible, but it's the lack of education and discipline that stands in the way for most people. Okay, so let's look at some of the other contents, some of the other comments, because it starts to 1,000 likes, but some people just don't get it. So I believe the short-term view. We know it's not a short-term view. I already know the answer. Someone comes in, I'm going to round the number. They got $500,000 in equity in a house, and they got liquid assets of $250,000. Okay, mostly RRSPs, a little bit of savings, a little bit of TFSAs, maybe. That's the ordinary. If I look at 10 people coming in, that's the most common scenario that comes in. It's not enough.
No.
It's just not enough because they have $37,600, and if I'm telling them they should have used the equity in their house more appropriately, what happens when, Trevor, you're a licensed mortgage broker, when you're 65 and you have $37,000 of income, how difficult is it to qualify for a mortgage at that point now that you're no longer employed?
Well, age alone age alone will disqualify you from actually getting a
lot of
mortgage,
products,
right?
yeah.
There's number one. And number two, 37,000, that also, there's no way you're going to get approved because
Nothing.
you're not working at that time either. So you've got no T4 income, like you've got a T1 general, but it's minuscule and you're not going to get qualified for it. The only thing that they do, the same lending institutions will give you a reverse.
Oh yeah, they'll give you the reverse mortgage. Let's
right?
confiscate that for you.
We'll confiscate
we're
your
there for you.
property
Oh my
from you
God.
just a little bit at a time.
Yeah.
Right. I know it's part of the mixed
Predatory.
bag. It's predatory.
Predatory.
I personally can't do it as a mortgage broker. I don't feel
It's
good
totally
about doing
predatory.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So these people are in a world of hurt.
Yeah.
And it's our job to try and save some of them. So let's look at these comments.
I'm just happy to have a house that's paid for with no debt and keeps me dry. Repairs and maintenance come with rentals and tents too. As if the only option was rent or tent, because they just like, what's that? Would you rather be like, this is the scenario. Would you rather have a paid off house of $500,000, liquid assets of $250,000, okay, or have liquid assets of $1.3 million and a HELOC of $250,000 and the house of $500,000? One is
I'll pick B.
yeah. One has a higher net worth than the other. One has way more cash flow than the other. One has more income than the other. Like by a long margin, and people don't realize like how much difference that makes. Okay. You have a point, but debt is a risk. Sure, you can leverage your house, but it's a risk. Stocks can decline in value and performance. Okay, great. But the false assumption there is real estate can't. Okay. Some people,
Right.
it's a factor of where you are, right? Because we have clients all over the country. But, we're in Alberta. This is very real for us because anytime someone comes into our office and tells us that they bought a place in Fort McMurray in and around 2007,
Ouch.
oh boy, they're probably still underwater from that purchase today, 20 years later.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
It's
real
tough.
estate declines in value too. The way you really take risk is you have a concentration of assets. It's we're big proponents on there are asset classes, right? There are private businesses that might not be for everybody, but real estate, dividend paying stocks, gold, and Bitcoin, pretty attainable for everybody. You don't need to run a business to do that. Right?
We're not talking about the asset classes of, mergers and acquisitions and fine art and sports cars and watches. We're talking about stuff that is attainable by the average Joe in Canada.
Easy, incremental, small increments, consistently over at a time. Okay, so like real estate can go down in people and it can go down in value. Okay. But this is, what you know. Here's one. That's me, own a home, but feeling the crunch. Thank you.
Honesty.
Thank you. Honesty. Like
Right?
this guy got sold the thing because there's way more people out there looking at this and not educating people, right? Where you see them on the news and that can't be me. It's like, I'm telling you, this is the most common outcome. It's not just my feelings. Like it's right. You can look at this. You can find this on, the parliamentary budget officer. You can find this on Stats Canada. It's like, what I'm telling you is like, I've done this for 18 years, but you don't have to listen to me. Just go look up the numbers. Like that is the outcome. That's the trajectory that most people are on. They're on the trajectory that they have significant equity in a house, but they have no liquid assets and they're broke. And by broke, I mean $37,600 a year, the median income. That's broke, right? It's not the existence of the retirement they sold you where you're going down south and taking cruises. You can't afford it on $37,600, right? I hear it now. It's like, oh, Vegas is down. The Canadians don't want to go to Vegas. Like they can't afford to go to Vegas.
Broke.
They
They're
can't afford to
broke.
go.
There is absolutely no disposable income available for them. So of course there's nothing happening in Vegas. And like it's not like it was. It's just not. Like we had lots of disposable income. We could go and travel and had some money, go play around in Vegas, but that's not today. That's not right now. Like we're talking $80 packages of steaks in the grocery store, and it's like, what are you thinking? Yeah,
$70 veggie trays, right?
right. Yeah, exactly.
That's what radicalized me was the $70 veggie trays, right? So,
compare. Here's one. This is good. This starts to get at the heart of the issue. Compare the average annual growth on stocks, cash, and bonds diversified since 1995, and the same amount invested in a residential detached home. You need the facts before you give advice. No, you're wrong. You're 100% wrong. Okay, because if you I'm sorry. Real estate has underperformed the S&P 500. Real estate has underperformed quality dividend paying stocks, not for a year or 5 years or 10 years, for decades. Decades. That is the answer. We break down decade by decade at the boot camp. We go through it every year, year by year, we break it down. But why do people think that? Because the crappy rate at the 60-40 split that they gave them at RBC underperformed the real estate. After they put 40% of your assets in useless bonds and charge you a 2% management fee, yes, it would have underperformed the real estate. Yes. But no, it didn't underperform stocks. What are stocks, right? Quality dividend paying stocks. Even just the basic S&P 500, it wouldn't have outperformed it. It just didn't, people. It's 5%. It's 5%,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And so not all stocks are equal, but neither is all real estate. So you have a nice prime piece of
Correct.
real estate near water that is going to appreciate at a much different rate than a small bungalow in Regina.
Yes.
Like two different things altogether. So when, if you have to be fair in your comparisons, apples to apples, oranges to oranges, what we're talking about is not that. So, you have to think, logically and be fair with your reasoning when you're comparing these two things.
Yes. So we have the facts. You can look it up. And if you're having trouble, we show them. This is exactly how we start section 1 of the boot camp, is go through a 25-year comparison of all these assets year by year by year, including what the government told us was the CPI. And we'll show you why it's not the CPI.
That's right. The CPI is what it is. Okay, what's the next
Here's
one?
it. You can use the equity in the house in a line of credit if you need it. So what's the difference? Good question. Good question. Now, I'm going to take it that this is an honest question. The difference was the compounding. Because, the compounding and the qualification, because we talked about before, it's like, what's the difficulty in applying for that line of credit after you retire? That's problematic in itself. The second part of it is you missed out on decades of compounding.
Yes.
Decades of being able to borrow at 4% and invest at 10.
Yeah.
That's the difference. So, yes, you could access that equity in the house, but now you're drawing it down, as opposed to you could have had positive cash flow. Okay, because if you start this when you're if you come in and you're 65, I can't get you to $1.3 million liquid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
Okay.
all about runway. How much runway do you have going forward?
If you no longer have any income earning power and you just have the 250, it's like, really, you're probably in a scenario where you need to go back to work. Now, they won't feel like that because, I have this equity, but the problem is you're gonna live more than 5 or 10 years. Mm-hmm. The Office of Financial Superintendent has a really good piece on this, where we know that the average age will be about 90. Now, people are gonna say, well, people die before 90 now. It's like, but you're not dying tomorrow. What happens to life expectancy? It goes up, right? So when I'm talking to someone, our age, it's like, I know the average age of death will be 90, okay? The wild part is I know that 10% of the clients will outlive 100. That's
crazy.
So if we talk to 10 clients, one of them is going to outlive by 100. Now, guess what? When you just start drawing down a house that's, making you 4 or 5% and in investments of 250, you're going to run out of money. You're going to run out of money, and things are going to start to cost more, and you're on the other side of that inflation. Okay, so that is the difference, is the compounding. Okay, because if you start this, you could have had, if you did this right, with no other additional income power, earning power, you could have had $1.3 million liquid. Okay, you could have still had the $500,000 house. Instead of a $500,000 house paid off with $250 liquid, you could have had a $500,000 house owing $250 and have $1.3 million liquid. That's the difference in the compounding. It's a massive, massive difference. Okay.
Yeah, huge.
And
It's too bad that, people don't, I mean, they're not taught these things, and the banks aren't going to tell you about them. The government's not going to tell you about them. Your mom and dad don't know anything about this. So you have to get your education somewhere else. And, tuning into this podcast is a great way to do that. It seems hard and it seems like it may be an impossibility, but it isn't. It's just knowledge, diligence, taking action in your life, taking responsibility. Nobody is coming to save you. The government's not coming to save you. Pierre Poilievre is not coming to save you. Trudeau's not coming to save you. Trump's not coming to save you.
Carney's not coming.
Carney's not coming to save you. The WEF's not coming to kill you. It's all about you and the decisions that you make with what you have right now.
I recommend not listening to this guy's advice. I have friends that can't retire because their pension and CPP doesn't cover their rent and groceries. If they owned a dwelling, even a small apartment condo, they have 75% income in their pocket. No, you wouldn't. You'd have $37,600 a year. Like that's the answer. Mm-hmm. You don't have 75% of that $37,600 in your pocket, even if the house is paid off. Property tax, insurance, repairs. Like it's just the answer, people. Mm-hmm. It's just the answer. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Paid off my place completely at 37. Now I'm able to invest large amounts of my income in being debt free. How does that sound, brah?
Hey, brah.
That's okay. I mean, in this realm, though, like you knew you were trending towards not having a significant portion of your net worth in your paid off residence. So remember what the number one way to go broke is. It wasn't necessarily paying it down. It's a significant portion of your net worth, too much of your net worth in your principal residence.
That's right.
That is the way you become broke. Now, could you have done that now that you paid it down? Your investment portfolio would be better if you leveraged it correctly. So that's the answer, because if you knew how to borrow at 5 and invest at 10, you would have done it earlier. Mm-hmm. But, someone like this would be okay. They just could have done better. Okay.
Yeah.
They could have done better if they knew how to leverage. That's the thing. It's like, I wasn't trained by the banks. I was trained to be a CFO. I was trained to manage balance sheets, and I treat balance sheets of households the same way I treat balances of companies. Like, how do I manage that balance sheet appropriately? How do I manage my debt to equity structure? Okay. That's, if you take the same approach, like what I tell people is it's just been rooted in finance principles for hundreds of years. You just have to apply it to personal finance. Okay, that's what you should do, because don't trust the RBC. They would gladly sell you a credit card that with 29% interest. Okay, as opposed to prudent debt to equity ratios, liquidity ratios, return on capital ratios. Like it's just like there's prudent decision making that the things that you really need. It's in a finance textbook. Okay, not in product literature on mutual funds that they're trying to sell you from RBC.
Absolutely, 100%. What else do we got for some comments here?
Lesson learned: paper homes are a terrible investment. Why you have paper home? Canada's broken. Sure. What if you inherited a house, no mortgage, however, it needs thousands to reno? I mean, good question. Needs on reno, I take with a grain of salt, because some people's needs are the roof is leaking and we're going to have mold in this house if we don't repair it. Need.
That's a need, for sure.
That's a need.
100%.
Some people's needs is I don't like the color of these oak cabinets anymore. This needs an update. That's not a need. So I would say establish, like, is what you really have a need here, or is it a want? Because people have a distorted view of how renos affect house valuations because they've watched too many home flipper episodes on HDTV.
Oh yeah.
But most renovations do not add to the value of the house dollar for dollar.
No.
And there's actually stats on this. Like you can look it up. It's like what adds to the value of the house. It's like the neighborhood, the floor print of the house, the finishings of the house. They add to the value of the house, but generally you're not going to add $100,000 kitchen, increase the value of the house by $100,000. You might increase it by $80,000. That might help you move it sooner, maybe. But dollar for dollar, it's most renos are difficult. So you really have to understand, like in someone like this, like, do you really need it, and what's the opportunity cost of putting that
equity into a reno as opposed to diversifying in liquid investments that would actually have a probability of increasing in value.
Yeah, I mean, if this was me and the scenario was, this is my place and it needed a few touch-ups in order to make it a little bit more appealing to the bank for an appraisal, then you take that house and you get a readvanceable HELOC or a HELOC on that house so that you can invest and take that equity, seeing it's a paid off house, use some of that equity to invest wisely.
Yeah.
That's what should be done. Put a little paint and lipstick, make the appraiser happy, and then use that liquid to invest wisely.
Yes. Boom, this guy has a phone. Yeah. I also have several $1 million of real estate too, but that's a different. So people think that I hate on real estate. I actually own a lot of real estate. So when I tell people I might sound negative on real estate and they get on me for owning real estate, I probably own more real estate than the guy I'm negative about. And a lot of people own way more real estate than me, but I certainly own way more than my principal residence. So different story. Okay. Here we go.
Oh boy.
Here we go. This really gets into it. This is BS because you have to factor in a mortgage interest saved by paying off a $500,000 mortgage with interest rate of 4% 10 years early. You save $132,000. So now you have a paid off home that continues to appreciate in value on average of 5 to 6% a year. A non-risk accumulation of $132K, which you would have lost in interest payments and normal mortgage payment. Home ownership is the largest wealth creation tool for middle America. I mean, okay, we live in Canada, and I've already told you the answer. Two-thirds of the, one more stat, roughly two-thirds of the population owns a house. This is the scenario. I already told you it's not wealth creation. It's a trap. Okay, you're going to have this is the net result of this thinking is a net worth of $738,000, maybe $500,000 in equity and $238,000 in RSPs and TFSAs, and hoping that the government continues to pay me my CPP and OAS like that, and a $37,000 taxable income a year. Like that's not wealth creation. It's a trap. It's prison. Kind of a terrible existence. It's literally being on the CBC saying I can't afford the property taxes. Okay, and this assumes that you took the equity from the house and blew it on a trip to Mexico. That's not what I'm saying. So you need to diversify into other assets that actually have a higher probability of paying you a higher rate of return.
Now, if they would have taken that, the portion that they're not paying into their mortgage, they paid it off 10 years early. They took that, let's say $132,000 in dollar cost average that into some dividend paying stocks, gold and Bitcoin over the same period of time. Then I would see that as a valid argument and a testament to what we're talking about, which is you can build wealth faster by getting into the market, accruing it over time, and taking advantage of the compounding interest.
The system is set up to move the money from the people who do the work and save to the people who borrow smartly to invest. Most people don't know how to borrow smartly or invest smartly. This is the problem, right? And then you hear the horror stories like I invested and lost, and I didn't know how to make money on my investments. I lost too much. It's like, this isn't. You have a $500,000 house and you take $250,000 out and put it in the market tomorrow. People, that's stupid. that like people just don't know how to do it, right? And I tell people, like, have you thought about the time horizon of this? It's like, okay, what if you did $250,000 over 10 years? How risky is that? What if you did it over 20 years? Like, you start to get to the risk where it's like, yeah, you could get hit by a bus tomorrow too. Like, that could happen, but you could also buy a piece of real estate in the wrong neighborhood and all of a sudden you lost money on that as well. Right? Okay.
Yeah.
That really could happen, right? And this happens, like, not even in just like bad neighborhoods. It's like you just get like condos who have a fire and they don't have the right insurance. Like, there was a condo, there's a condo in Edmonton that I'm aware of. It had a fire, right? And they had insurance for the fire, but then they find out that the construction, it was not constructed properly. And because they'd opened up the walls, they seen this, that was not covered by the insurance. So you're talking, condos that were worth $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 that people basically had to walk away for land value and they didn't even get most of the land value because it was just tied up in litigation. Their investments literally went to zero.
And boom, there you go. Real estate didn't work in that scenario. And those people are going to be digging out of that hole for a long, long, long time.
This is one of my favorite ones.
Yeah,
I
okay,
sold
check it
my
out.
house and I moved into an ETF. Okay, that's about as understanding as saying I shouldn't, I shouldn't buy a house because I need to eat. Like, yeah, you can't live in an ETF, but you can't buy groceries with your door either, your front door. You need cash flow people to do this. Like, it's like that is, kind of one of the ones, but they don't actually know how to derive reliable cash flow from an investment. I'm talking about building a portfolio that pays you a reliable stream of dividends. I'm talking about the type of portfolio where if you had 30 good companies with strong dividends, like people like, oh, what if the market crashes? Like, there's no 10-year period in history where it wouldn't have recovered. None. Let's say you had 30 quality, strong dividend-paying companies, and 2008 hits and the market's down 50%. You know what happens to 3 of those 30 companies? They cut their dividend. They go to zero. You know what happens to another 3 of those companies? They maybe cut their dividend by 50%. You know what happens to the other 26 of those companies? Nothing. They keep paying their dividend. Yeah. Go back and look at it, people. Go back and look what happened to these 2 strong dividend-paying companies in 2020 when COVID hit. Go back and look what happened in 2008 when the financial crisis hit. Go back and look in 2001 when the tech bubble. Go back and look in 1987. Like, go back and back test this, because this is the stuff that you really do. It's like, this stuff does need to be stress tested. What if the market does go down by 50%? What if you do lose your house in an uninsurable event? Stress test these things. Like, what actually happens to this person in this situation, right? And like you really have to understand it, but like this is the one where it's like I hear this all the time. It's like I can't live in a Bitcoin. Oh my God, I can't live in an ETF. It's like, okay, but you can't also buy groceries with your living room. I have to rent it out, right? Like people, you have to understand there are assets that produce cash flow, ones that don't, assets that are liquid, assets that are illiquid. And ultimately, how do I create a predictable cash flow stream from these assets? Okay. And I'm going to tell you that this is but people just don't know, because a lot of them have been taken advantage of. They actually see these terrible returns. Like I've seen people come in with these high fee mutual funds and they haven't made any money for a decade. Mm-hmm. So of course they feel like this, right? But to me, it's a little less shocking, because like I'm in meetings every day. I mean, I'm in a meeting today with a client, and like, we're sailing. We got that $1.3 million liquid net worth. I've been working with the guy for more than a decade. It's like, this is like, it's very real for me, because it's like we've created it time and time again. But most people don't know anybody who's created a $1.3 million liquid net worth. Not you're interacting with them every single day, right? Yeah. That you've done it, and other people have helped multiple other people. So it's just like, it's a total foreign concept, right? It's like saying, like, I can help you fly an airplane, but if you're a pilot, it can help you fly an airplane. It's actually not that hard, right? It's like there's a lot harder things to do in the world. We're not actually, trying to run a 4-minute mile or anything here, right? Like these things are very, easy is the right word to do. It's like they're just doable. They take knowledge, discipline, and a long time horizon. But once you learn that, it starts to become, it's like you'll wish you would have started earlier, because if you don't, I'm telling you, where's the likely destination if you don't learn this? If you're earning the median income.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you buy the house and pay it down, it's like I'm telling you that this is where most seniors are. Like that's it. $750,000 net worth, maybe 500 of it is in the equity in the house, 250 is in liquid investments performing poorly. They don't have any good options for credit, and they don't have enough time for compounding anymore.
That's right.
That's it. Like that's the destination, right? And so, are you taking a risk? That is the risk. The biggest risk that we all take every single day. Here's the point where like people think that assets go up and down. It's like, well, if it goes up by a little bit, that's not risky. Here it is, people. Every single day, there is no risk solution because of inflation risk. Mm-hmm. Inflation risk. Yeah. $1.4 trillion of Canadian dollars in circulation 10 years ago. $2.8 trillion today. Doubled. The money supply doubled. Okay? The money supply doubled. Okay? If you haven't doubled your liquid net worth, it's like that's it. You're just not keeping pace. And meanwhile, look what's happening. You know, our population didn't double. I know it went up by a lot, and I know people are up and on, but it just didn't. Like, the money supply is going up by 8%, and the population is growing by 1%. That's roughly what we're arguing about. Is in the last couple of years gone up by 1.5%. Which too much. Trust me, I know. I know. But the root of the issue here is that if you look at the inflation that they tell you it is, and you look at the population growth, and then you compare it to the currency supply expansion, you'll find out that the inflation they tell you is not the real inflation, and your income trajectory growth, it really, like, it's just right here, people. It's like, it's going to be worse. It's going to be worse. It's like, yeah, will this 37,600 go up? Yeah, it'll be like 40,000. And maybe that equity in the house will be 700,000, and they'll have but it won't buy enough. The problem will get worse proportionally. It's getting worse. Okay, and so, you know, if you have to, there are very doable steps to not hit this trajectory. But most people are worried about the risk, but the certain risk is inflation. There is no risk solution. Okay, your real estate could have an impairment of value. Your real estate might not have an increase in value. Okay, you know, the 30 stocks, 30 quality dividend, 30 stocks are less risky than one piece of real estate in one location.
Oh, absolutely.
That's just like,
absolutely.
That's just the nature of the beast.
It's diversified over 30 different companies that have a shown and proven track record of dividend growth.
The entry point, the number of times you purchase, because sometimes people think of like a single point in time that you buy stocks, gold, and Bitcoin like you buy real estate. When you buy real estate, you can't buy 1/100th of a house. Okay, that's not how most people buy real estate. They buy one big, you know, they make a $500,000 or $600,000 purchase on day one, and they take a big risk buy. But that's not how you have to buy stocks.
No.
Okay, that's not how you have to, you know, use the leverage in your home to buy stocks. It's like, yeah, if you take, you know, if you were to take 80% of the equity out of your house and FOMO it into the stock market, that's a big, huge risk. Like, that's a giant risk, right? But it's the percentage. How much of your equity is in there? You know, is it 80% or is it 5%? You know, which one starts to be risky, right? If I take 5% off the top, is that still risky? Like, reduce it to the ridiculous, people, like where it's not risky. It's like, if I FOMO it in 1 year, that's really risky. What if I distributed it over 10 years? How risky is that? There's no 10-year period in history where you lose money in the stock market.
There you go.
Okay, so like, you start to have to understand, like, it's the ratios that matter. It's not the absolute. When people tell you, it's like, real estate is safe and stocks are risky. No. That's just a number. That's a fear. That's a headline. That's something that someone's been told.
Well, and that's the biggest problem with social media and keyboard warriors is everything is black and white. It has to be love, hate, black, white, rich, poor. You know, real estate, stocks, Bitcoin, real estate. Like, it's one or the other when it comes to the internet. There's no nuance. There's no, you know, thinking about, okay, what's a more balanced approach to this, right? They're always thinking about in terms of absolutes. And absolutes never win absolutely.
That's right.
It just doesn't happen.
That's right. I mean, I get hate on for, like, I'll be saying, oh, you're critical of real estate. Like, they're all about, like,
I'm critical of everything. What are you talking about?
And someone is like, you should own real estate. It's like, we have all, like, we love real estate. You know, like, why do we own real estate? It's basically rent control. I get a portion of the place that I live in that's rent control. That's why we're a strong advocate of it. So I'm not telling you that you should rent forever. Don't own anything, just rent. Like, you know that, but meanwhile they have a fund to sell you, a high fee fund, like GC. You know who I'm talking about, right? Don't own where you live, right? Like, but buy my fund, buy my high fee liquid fund instead, right? Like, like, no, you should own real estate, right? But you should know how to manage that balance sheet, right? Then I get people, it's like, oh, you're too heavy in Bitcoin, you show more stocks. Like, I own a lot of stocks too. It's like, I think the problem is when someone tells you it's like it's all one or the other. I'm not saying you shouldn't own real estate. You should own real estate. I'm saying no, you shouldn't have too much of your net worth in real estate.
The whole point of this episode was like, this is the number one way to go broke in Canada, and it's having the majority of your net worth in your primary residence or in real estate in general.
Yeah.
You cannot,
especially your primary residence, no cash flow from it. Right?
Zero.
It's just you're just banking on appreciation. Which is like the average is, what's the Vegas odds on that is 5%, right? And that's, I would say you can relatively project that based on where you live too. Like if you don't live, in a prime piece of property, you're probably going to get under that because like that 5% is the average, including the people who live in West Van looking at the harbor.
Exactly. That's the point, right?
That's so when you hope that your house in the hood in Winnipeg is going to keep up with the average, it's not. Like it's just not going to happen, right? Like that's not a likely scenario, right?
Only way you're going to make money on that house is if you're cooking meth and selling.
Yeah.
I'm just teasing. I'm not suggesting you do that. It's just a joke, folks. Just a joke.
So I mean that's like you have to take a look at this because you can't live in your ETF, but you can't pay mortgage with you can't buy groceries with your paying off real estate.
Yeah, just take a piece of sod.
You're going to have to leverage it or sell it eventually, right? So now you start to think like this is the outcome. Like first of all, understand if you take the average steps, what's the average outcome? That's it. I've told you. So 37,600. That sounds great. Keep going. Turn off that right now. Don't hit like, don't hit subscribe, don't do any. But if 1.3 million liquid and a $500,000 house that you owe $250 on sounds better, sign up for our next bootcamp. I'll show you how to do it.
Right?
And I won't charge you 2% of your net worth. I'll charge you $200. Okay.
Wow, that's a bargain.
And we'll walk through people on just to give the data alone, right? We just wanted because for a lot of people in the beginning stages of this, there's nothing I can do to really help them. They're too early. There's some baby steps that they got to do for the next year, 2 years, 5 years before we know about it. I mean, one of the first baby steps we show them is like, we'll show you how to go buy some quality dividend paying stocks. And it's like my baby steps, go buy $100 of quality dividend paying stocks and look at how those dividends pay out. Right?
It's awesome.
I have a client today, 7-figure portfolio. I've worked with the guy for years and years, but surprise, surprise, we're going to have trouble convincing his wife how to make the right steps, right? We know what we could do with a pension because, we've been, I've been working with the guy for almost 20 years. Like we know exactly what to do. Our strategy session was how do I get my wife to actually understand this? And I tell her, like, let's get a Wealthsimple account. Here's a good, dividend paying ETF. Tell her she can do whatever she wants when it comes to this milestone, as long as she does this for every month and buys this and looks and checks the dividend payouts, right? It's the same way as like, how do I orange pill people? People are just no coiners, right?
Yeah.
I just get them to download a Lightning wallet. I put $10 on their phone, and then I just don't talk to them for a year. And I make them check the price of that. Once it goes up high enough, they're like, that $10 of Bitcoin you put on my phone, it's now worth $24. Like, yeah, I know. Yeah, like you want to learn some more, and now you want to buy some. Do you want to learn? No, I don't want to learn. I just want to learn how to buy it. They still don't want to learn. They just want the number went up, so I'm going to do it, right?
Number goes up, that's a good thing.
So that's sometimes there's some baby steps that you need to do because it's just your education, right?
Yeah.
And it's not something that you're going to learn on a Saturday. A lot of people need to see it for a year or two. And that's the good thing because there's a lot of people, who are starting out. There's people who, they're contemplating doing something like this. Like, how do I use that equity in my home? There's some people that don't have any equity because they just put 5 or 10% down.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but if they make the right choices now, if they invest in that education now, when it comes time to make the right choice, they'll know, how to do it. And they'll also know when to, because people use the leverage incorrectly. They use it risky.
Yeah.
Right?
The beautiful thing, like say you're young and you're getting started now and you buy your first piece of real estate. I know we're talking about real estate today, but if you buy that first piece of real estate and you're high leveraged, right? Or sorry, high ratio. High ratio mortgage, 5-10% down, whatever. In 3 to 5 years and you want to go to refinance that, you can actually have a picture in your mind of where you want to go, what scenario you have to be in, what kind of earning potential, what your numbers need to look like, and then you can actually start there, refinance that thing, get that readvanceable HELOC. If you do the right things and you don't muck it up, you can start there, and then you can begin leveraging that piece of property that you bought into buying stocks that we're talking about.
Yeah, this comes with the reverse too, because they get people in it. Like, I've looked at the math, Josh. I've looked at this. You know, I now I got my $1 million place. I'm borrowing $800,000. I'm going in the market. I'm just like,
whoa.
Stop, please. Like, let's get rich for sure, not get rich quick here,
Easy,
right?
easy,
So,
cowboy.
like, there's a time and a place. There's a speed that makes sense. There's a ratio that makes sense. It's, you know, people who say yes or I'm all in. It's like, no. There's a prudent way to do this on, like, how do we get rich for sure instead of get rich quick, right? So like I said, the system is set up to move the money from the people who do the work and save to the people who know how to borrow smartly to invest smartly. Like, you have to learn how to do it. And it's a little bit painstakingly boring. Like, we know it's going to work, and the temptation is to actually go quicker, but you don't have to. Like, once you've hit that home run, right? It's like, you don't have to, right? It's like, you know, our target is like, I got to get everyone to 1.3 million. I also know that I get you to 7.3 million, your lifestyle stops changing. You know, I also know that. I understand how that works, where it just doesn't, you know, you're already sitting at the good seats on the airplane. You already don't really care about the price on the menu anymore. It's like, yeah, you could go buy a Bugatti, but a Porsche 911 is pretty cool. Like, doesn't matter. At some point, like, the incremental changes in life don't matter, right? But the incremental changes between, I have $250,000 in assets that are invested poorly at 65, or if I have $1.3 million liquid invested in good, predictable, cash flowing assets at 65, that's way different.
Way different.
That is that is straight from panic and despair to comfort. And it's difficult to put a price tag on that.
Yeah, I just have a quick story that you're talking about your client there and the wife. I get interrupted with this thing. I got to get a Rolex because this interrupts me all the time with a notification from an app, from a person sending me a text message or whatever. And it usually irritates me. But the only time that I love getting a notification is when Questrade or Wealthsimple says, hey, you've earned a dividend.
You got your dividend.
Now you earned a dividend. I'm like,
You
that's
have
awesome.
got
I
your
love
dividend,
it. I just
right?
made money for nothing. Like, it's wonderful. It's such a good feeling when your money is growing and you're getting paid a dividend. And I didn't have to exchange any of my energy, my time, my thought process into generating that money. I invested in the stock, I bought it, I waited, get my dividend, and it's amazing.
I'm an owner.
It's such a good feeling.
Yeah, and it is. It's a really interesting feeling, because me and you, we own private businesses.
Yeah.
They're not passive.
Oh.
They're not passive. It is now
Okay.
6:38
It's
on a Friday,
6:38, yeah,
and we're doing our
exactly.
podcast. They're certainly not passive, right?
No.
Real estate. I own real estate. I have tenants. It's not passive, okay? But my stocks, they are passive, right? They are passive. I don't, I'm going to log in next month, and I'm not going to care until I log in next month. Not at all. And if it goes down, still don't care. I'm an owner. I'm getting paid, because I'm not speculating in the stock market. I'm investing in the long term to receive a predictable cash flow, right?
Absolutely.
I'm positioned where, what if it goes down 50%? I'm fine. If it goes down 50%, I'm still going to the same place for vacation. That's not going to matter. Like, it's not going to matter because I've gone through these cycles. I know exactly where it's going to be, but I'm not going to expose myself that a 50% drawdown goes to zero either, right? So you have to know the parameters. You have to, back test that stress test, but you also have to forward test, because everyone's facing inflation risk. So
That's right.
that's what we have. We have a little bit of a comment there. What do we have?
Okay, so it's from Sean. Hey, Sean. Thanks for clarifying this. I've been thinking, why even buy real estate if it underperforms real inflation when I can buy liquid assets instead? But there is benefits. There are the benefits.
Leverage.
Yeah. Leverage.
Yeah. Real estate's really easy real estate is the easiest asset to leverage. So I can leverage against my stock portfolio too, but it's a mark-to-market. It's a mark-to-market, limit. Okay. I have a margin, yes, but that margin gets reset every day based on the valuation every day. If I have a HELOC in a house, No one asks for an up-to-date valuation on that house every day to readjust that HELOC limit. So
right.
leverage, I have an asset that's, historically has been pretty easy to finance at 4%. So I can get access to capital at 4%. And if I don't, the thing is the number one risk with real estate is having it tenanted by a good quality tenant. Mm-hmm. That's the number one risk. So you definitely do need some place to live. Yes. Right. And so it's not that you have to own a paid off piece of real estate, but they came out with 50-year mortgages in the U.S. and it just blew people's mind. It's like, it could be interest only. It's the fact that even if it's interest only, if you bought a place for $500,000, you had a HELOC of $300,000, you never paid it off, and the $300 just went into the market. It slowly over time, like, oh my goodness, people, like they just want to dump it in, but if that's what you did, you'd still be better off, because that $300,000, even if you never paid off the principal, that interest rate stays relatively consistent over time. And I say relatively compared to rental rates, because real estate goes up by 5%. Guess what happened to rents? They also go up compound 5% every year. Mm-hmm. Okay. So if real estate is going up by 5% every year, so is the rent that you have. So even if you just had debt, if you're paying the interest on that debt, that stays the same. And so that interest payment will stay the same every single year, but you don't have to worry about a landlord coming in and raising the rents every single year. So that's kind of you basically have this one piece of property that you need a place to live. Mm-hmm. So it's a guaranteed tenanted piece of property. So that's the lowest risk piece of property you're going to own. Very easy to finance, very easy to access capital. And it's the diversification of assets too. Okay. There's a reason why, I don't invest anymore where I just look at the spreadsheet and pick the number that's the highest, the category. It's the diversification that matters. I want real estate, dividend paying stocks, gold, and Bitcoin. I'm fairly certain that we're all going to wish we would have just sold everything and bought Bitcoin, but I'm not 100% certain on that. And I want to be in a position where Bitcoin could go to zero and I'm still live comfortably. Okay.
Yeah. But that makes a lot of sense.
And so you should think about that of all of your asset classes. Like, it could be any one city. Real estate's, you could have the federal government, the provincial government, the municipal government. They all have their hands out for taxes on real estate, and they can change it just not by taxation, but they can change it by regulation, who you can rent it to, how you can kick them out if they're not paying. And, every asset class has risks like that. Okay. So the why you'd want both, why real estate, it's, the access to leverage and the diversification of risk into one of those four asset classes. So hopefully that helps someone. Hopefully one person's going to watch this and not be the person making $37,600 per year and want to learn more rather than dismissing using their home equity. Okay.
I think we're still going to have people who misunderstand. We're going to get some kind of a clip pulled from here, and it's going to tick someone off.
It's great.
And it's going to be great for engagement. Thank you for growing the channel. We
1,000 likes and 100 people who hate me. Perfect.
Yes, love
Perfect
it. Thank you for the haters who just drink. This is actually Haterade right here. So thank you very much. But no, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. We really appreciate you stopping by. If you got something out of this, please share, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you know when the next one's going to be going live. And as for that, thank you, Josh. I think it's time for us to call it a day and head home.
Right on.
All right.